All right, in this next section, what we're looking to get my microphone adjusted. I'm assuming that script writing is now done. All right, so we're getting ready for this podcast project, and let me kind of talk you through it here again. I'm going to go to Start and Computer, and I'm going to get to Drive L, and I'll use, again, use your class period, whether you're in 3rd or 6th. You just open your class period, go to Assignments, and go to Audacity, and it's time for real podcast production now, so I'm going to double-click that. And I'll look at this project sheet here first of all. Now, anytime you want to, you could come here and double click. This thing says double click for Mr. A's podcast, and you'll hear it start playing. All right, I'm not going to play that whole thing. You can listen to it if you want to. You can hear my podcast anytime just by getting to Drive L and double clicking that file, and you can hear it. All right, but for right now, I'm going to look at this sheet with you, this podcast production sheet. And here are the things you need to remember. It's a 70-point project. And again, you've kind of written your script, so you know the main idea, hopefully. Your podcast or your show, if you just want to call it a show, that's fine. It's going to be called IMO, in my opinion. I want you to identify yourself at the beginning of the show. So even if you didn't put that in your script, when you start recording, you can say, "Hi everybody, my name is," and tell them who you are, so that you identify yourself at the start of the show. Your podcast should express your opinion about something. Kind of already covered that in your script writing. You write your own script. You've kind of already done that. When I'm here, I generally approve these before you record. As long as you're school appropriate, you're okay. The sub can take a look at the script if we really need to do that. All right, you got to record your own voice reading your script. Now here's a requirement: you have to have theme music at the beginning and the end. All right, we've covered in a previous session how to grab music off of an internet website. You can just use that Music Bakery, or if you find another site that will give you some music that you can record that is school appropriate, that's okay. The whole thing has to be at least 1 minute long, and it's got to have an ending. When you come to the end of your show, you need to wrap it up. Don't just stop talking and have the music cut in. You got to say something like, that's all the time we have for today. We're out of time for today. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye. See you next time. However you want to do that is okay, but you need to end your show. All right, that's just good production to end the show. Everything has to be school appropriate in the whole thing. Now, the step-by-step here, you probably have already done this. You've written your script in Microsoft Word. Now, again, not a bad idea to print it and have Miss Chance Cook look at it just to make sure it's okay. If she gives you the go-ahead, we're good. All right, now, think this through here a little bit. You really ought to do this in chunks. Don't sit there and try to put the whole thing together in Audacity at one time. What you ought to do is this: start Audacity, record your script, and export that recording as an MP3. All right? Then just close all your audio tracks. Even get out of Audacity if you want to, but close every. Once you have your script recorded and exported, close all the audio tracks, or even get out of Audacity completely. Then you could get back into Audacity and record your opening music. All right, now that goes back to how we did it, like with Music Bakery. You get on the internet, you record a little piece of music, and if you want to add the fade in, fade out, all that kind of thing, go ahead and do that. Export it as an MP3, and once again, close all your audio tracks. Get rid of it. Close it. Get out of Audacity if you want to. Just record and export your opening music. All right, do this in chunks. Break it out in chunks. You got your script, you got your opening music. You're going to need some closing music. Now, it's actually okay if you use the same music at the beginning and at the end if you want to. You can do that, or you can have different music at the end. That's kind of your call. But if you're going to record some closing music, get that done, export that as an MP3, and then close all your audio tracks again. Okay? So again, you got to chunk this out. Do it in pieces. Do your script, do your opening music, do your closing music. If you need sound effects, go to that grsites.com and download the sound effects you want, like a crowd clapping or cheering or booing, something like that. If you need something like that, download it and have it right there on your network drive. And then I'm going to kind of show you this in a minute. Then what you can do is just start kind of fresh in Audacity with no audio tracks or anything, and import each piece that you want in the order that you want it. All right, you just pull in your opening music, you pull in your script, you pull in your closing music, and then you time shift things around so they sound the way you want. And you make, you can do any, if you want to change the pitch of something or whatever, you can do those kinds of edits. We've learned how to do that, so you can do it if you want to. But when it's all put together and everything is working the way you want, you export this entire podcast as an MP3 and just call it IMO or IMO podcast. Either one would work. Now the scoring for this works like this. The script writing is 30 points. Get your script written. Recording your script is 10 points. Having the theme music is 10 points. Putting it all together, getting everything time shifted and getting the order the way you want it, that's 10 points. And there's an effort score of 10 points. Putting some effort into it. Total is 70 points here, and your final product is this MP3 that's called IMO or IMO Podcast, and it has everything in it, the opening music, your script, the closing music, and all that. Now let's take a quick look at how that kind of looks. I'm going to get this out of the way and get this out of the way, and I'll start Audacity. I have all of my pieces recorded, so what I'll do is, let's imagine that I've done all the recording work already. I've recorded my script and exported it. I have recorded my opening music and exported it. I have my closing music and everything. All right. So, I can click File, Import Audio, and I'll go look on. I have it all saved actually on a disk that I use for my classes here. So I'll get into that file and I'll get into my voice and audio and podcast project. I think is where everything is. All right, so, and actually I did all this recording in 2012 before second semester, so, I want my opening music first. I've got it all recorded, it's all ready to go, so I want my opening music. Well, okay, here it is, 2012 opening theme. All right, so that's what I called my music when I exported it. So I'm going to open that up. All right, so if I play that, it's, all right. There, we hear that. Okay. And you can see I've got a fade in and a fade out on there. All right. So it's about 17 seconds long. Wonderful. I've got my opening music. Now, the next thing I would do is go to File and Import and Audio, and I want my script now. All right. So if I look in here, here's my 2012 script right here. Open that. All right. That's a little bit longer. And you can see that excuse me, when I opened that, it looks like my music shrunk, but my music didn't really shrink. It's just that Audacity zoomed out to show me all of my script, and so my music looks real small compared to my script. That's all that is, because my script's about 2.5 minutes long. Yours won't be that long, probably. All right, now I'm going to time shift my script over so that it just as the music is fading out, I'm starting to talk here, and you can kind of, and check my edit there and see how that sounds. Okay, the music's playing. Thank you, and welcome to today's episode of IMO. All right, so I've got things started here. All right, so I'm going to let my script run here, and actually in my final version I stuck some sound effects at different places in there, which you can easily do. If you have a spot that you want to stick something in, remember, Control I, you can split that, and you can take the time shift tool and give yourself a little space. And let's say, if I wanted to put a sound effect right in that spot, I could go File and Import Audio, and let's say here I have like a crowd booing. So I pull that in and click OK on this, and I can just time shift that so the crowd booing happens kind of right there, right where I made that split. So you can work with the things that you need to do. You can split a track if you need to and put some sound effects in here. I could probably even, it won't let me pull that up onto that track. I was going to say maybe I could even get that. Nope, it won't. All right, that's okay. I can just kind of fit that in, and make it work. All right, and so as I work my way along, I'm putting in my things like my script, my sound effect. I got to have my closing music. So I go to File and I go to Import and I go to Audio, and here's my 2012 closing theme. All right, so I'm going to open that up. Now it's sitting right here at the 0 mark, so I got to time shift it down, and I'll want that to happen, way down here at the end of the show. I want the closing music to come in as I'm kind of finishing my talking here. Now, anytime you're going to do this kind of thing, I've got a lot of stuff going on here, and I could zoom back out on this some. I just kind of hit this minus button and kind of zoom out a little bit. But you ought to check it out when you get it all done. Don't just throw the things in there and say, well, okay, good enough. Play it. Hit the play button and check it and make sure that you've got everything working the way you want. Now, I'm not going to play that whole thing during this demo, but you ought to play your show. You got multiple tracks here. You got opening music, scripts, closing music, sound effects, whatever. So you ought to play it and make sure you got it the way you want it. Now, if you got it all done and everything's good, you got it the way you want it, then you go to File, you go to Export, and remember, just get to Drive H, and this is called IMO or IMO Podcast. IMO is good enough. You could just call it IMO, in my opinion, and off we go. And it's going to tell you that everything's going to be mixed down to stereo channels, or it could say mono channels, probably stereo. So you just click OK and let it go. And it may take a second or two. If it's a longer file, if you had a lot to say, then it may take a little bit of time. And mine's almost done. And wha-bam, there it is. And that's how you put this thing together. Now, you're going to have plenty of time to do this. You got a couple of class periods here to work on this. So you've got to record your script, you've got to record your opening music, you've got to record your closing music. You can put the sound effects aren't required, but you can put them in if you want to. So that's what we're looking at here. All right. Remember, once you have exported your final podcast, you can close Audacity and say, nope, don't need to save anything else because my final podcast is exported. Hey, that's the project. Should have plenty of time to get it done. Jump in there, have at it, off you go.